So now we're going to go right to the code. And these are going to be the same values that you saw on the previous screen, where we're going to start with no x velocity and 30 units of y velocity. Now let's see what happens when we press play. Okay, that was very fast. It might have been hard to catch anything that happened. So I'm going to press play one more time. All right, so what you might have noticed a little bit better from that picture is that we're starting off at this one black dot around here, which is, if you put the center of the Earth about here, the black dot is on the same line as the center of the Earth. And then we're starting to launch the rocket up. But as it goes up, see, the velocity started out by going up. The red arrow was pointing straight up, but the force of gravity is keeping you in orbit around the Earth. You're falling inward because of that. And now, as you start to go around, you immediately fall back into Earth very quickly. So I'll press that one more time to see. You're going to have to look quickly, but try to pay attention to the red arrow and how it changes. Yeah, so you can barely make it out, but it started more vertical, and then it started to turn to the side as we crashed back in the Earth. Now, of course, we don't want to crash. We want to make a full orbit around the Earth, and that was barely some fraction of an orbit. So how can we do this? You'll notice that with those initial conditions, we crashed in a fraction of a second. So let's try something. Let's try changing the y velocity from 30 to something greater and see what that does to us. It's not too simple to figure out a value off the top of your head, but let's try something simple. We started out with 30, let's just double it and see what happens. So we're going to go to the code, and then here on this line, line 3, we're just going to change from 30 to 60, and then we're going to press play, and what happens? Okay, so that's possibly some kind of orbit. It may or may not be bound, but as we can tell, the rocket is getting very, very far away from Earth. Now, we don't want that to happen either, because as we get too far away from the Earth, you're never going to get your astronaut. They're just going to be launched into space, and they can't come back to us. So let's try doing something a little bit lower. I like the number 10. Let's go down by 10 values. So let's go down to 50. Okay, so this is a lot better. What we see now is that we have something truly and obviously in orbit around the Earth. It's following the same path as it sweeps around in circles, but this isn't exactly the circle we want. This looks more like an ellipse, almost like an egg shape, if you will. For this exercise, we really want to try to get close to a circle. So let's try, again, another value of 10 going down, so from 50 to 40, and see if that does better. Okay, so 40 is too low because we only got about a quarter of the way around Earth. So we started here, and we crashed pretty close to the top center. So we tried 40 just now. Before this, we tried 50. Let's go in the middle, and we'll try 45. And hopefully that works, but we will see. Okay, so this looks pretty good so far. This is closer to the 50 value because it's a closed orbit that doesn't crash, but still it's somewhat close to the 40 value because we're continuing to stay close to the circle, something close to a circular shape. So this may not be a perfect circle, but I think this is good enough for our purposes right now. So let's write down 40 because we want to record this value. V sub y equals 45. And with knowing what we're going to need next, I'm just going to write a little comment here and say that this is what we are going to call the measured value. And the reason we'll call it the measured value will become clear as we move forward. So let's stop for now, and we'll go back and continue the exercise.